He was thrown down a flight of stairs by a gang of bullies, left unconscious, hospitalized for days. That kid grew up to become the richest human being who ever lived. This is the real story of Elon Musk. Not the headlines, not the tweets. The actual story of how a broken kid from South Africa rewired the entire world. Pretoria, South Africa, 1980s. Elon Musk was not cool. He was small, awkward, obsessive, and spent most of his time alone reading encyclopedias. By age 9, he had read the entire Britannica cover to cover. Twice. His parents divorced when he was 9. Most kids fall apart when their family breaks. Elon responded by reading more books. He once finished an entire library and went back to the librarian asking for more. She didn't know what to give him, so she handed him encyclopedias. He read those too. While other kids played outside, Elon was teaching himself to code. At 12 years old, he built a video game called Blaster and sold it to a magazine for $500. 12 years old. But school was hell. He was bullied relentlessly. A group of boys made it their mission to make his life miserable. One day, they threw him down a concrete staircase and beat him until he blacked out. He had to be taken to hospital. When he came back to school, the same boys were still there. Nothing happened to them. He came home unrecognizable. His father, Errol, showed almost no sympathy. The relationship between Elon and his father was cold, critical, and damaging in ways Elon has only recently spoken about publicly. He has said his father was a terrible human being. Almost every evil thing you can think of, he has done. That is not a small thing to carry as a child. So Elon did what brilliant, lonely kids do. He escaped into his mind, into books, into science fiction, into the idea that the world didn't have to be the way it was. He became obsessed with one question: how do you make humanity a spacefaring civilization? He was 14 when he first asked it. He never stopped. At 17, he made a decision that changed everything. He left South Africa alone, moved to Canada, and refused to look back. No connections, no money, no plan beyond survival. His mother, May, watched him go and didn't know if she'd ever see him again. Canada was brutal. He worked on a farm shoveling grain in sweltering heat. He cleaned out a boiler room in a lumber mill for $18 an hour, a job so dangerous and unpleasant that the full-time workers refused to do it. He slept on floors. He ate cheap food. He had almost nothing, but he was free. And for Elon Musk, freedom was the only fuel he needed. He eventually made it to the University of Pennsylvania, then to Silicon Valley. In 1995, he started his first company, Zip2, with his brother Kimball in a tiny office where they also slept because they couldn't afford rent. They had one computer, used for work during the day and to build the website at night. They showered at the YMCA. They ate at the cheapest places they could find. 4 years later, Compaq bought Zip2 for $307 million. Elon's cut was $22 million. He was 27. Most people would have stopped there, bought a house, retired. Elon took almost every dollar and started again. He founded X.com, an online payments company that eventually became PayPal. But here's the part nobody talks about. While Elon was on his honeymoon in 2000, his own board voted to remove him as CEO. He came back from his honeymoon to find out he no longer ran the company he founded. Most people would have collapsed. Elon stayed on as a shareholder and kept working. When eBay acquired PayPal in 2002 for $1.5 billion, Elon walked away with $180 million. The man they fired on his honeymoon made $180 million from the sale. And then he did something everyone around him thought was insane. He decided to spend it all on rockets and electric cars, two industries that had never produced a single profitable company in history. His friends staged an intervention. Actual people who cared about him sat him down and begged him not to do it. One even made him watch a compilation of rockets exploding just to talk him out of it. Elon watched the whole video, then said he was doing it anyway. In 2004, he put $70 million into Tesla. Then he founded SpaceX with $100 million and set a goal so absurd it was almost funny. He wanted to colonize Mars. Not visit. Colonize. Permanently. He wanted to make humans a multi-planetary species within his lifetime. SpaceX launched its first 3 rockets. All 3 failed. Each failure cost tens of millions of dollars. Elon would drive to the launch pad, watch his rocket explode, then drive back and tell his team to build another one. No breakdown, no quitting, just back to work. By 2008, Elon was broke. Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. SpaceX had enough money for exactly one more launch. And if that wasn't enough, the global financial crisis had just hit. The worst economic collapse since the Great Depression. Nobody was investing in anything, let alone rockets. He has described 2008 as the worst year of his life. His marriage was falling apart. He was borrowing money from friends just to cover basic expenses. He was having panic attacks. He couldn't sleep. The man who wanted to conquer Mars was terrified he was going to lose everything he had ever built. The 4th SpaceX rocket launched in September 2008. Elon sat watching the live feed, hands shaking. This was it. If it failed, SpaceX was finished. Tesla was finished. Everything was finished. Years of work. Hundreds of millions of dollars. All of it riding on the next few minutes. It worked. The Falcon 1 became the first privately built liquid-fueled rocket to reach orbit in history. Elon broke down in tears. His team broke down in tears. 6 weeks later, NASA handed SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract. Tesla survived too. On Christmas Eve 2008, with hours to spare before bankruptcy, Tesla closed a funding round that kept the company alive. Elon later said he made it by the skin of his teeth. He had put his last dollar in. There was nothing left. And then it worked. From that moment, everything changed. Tesla's Model S launched in 2012, and the world stopped laughing. It won every car award imaginable. It proved electric cars could be better than petrol cars. Not just better for the environment. Actually better. Faster. Smoother. More advanced. The entire car industry had to rethink everything. SpaceX went even further. They landed a rocket booster back on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean. Something aerospace engineers said was physically impossible. They did it again, and again, until reusable rockets became routine. They cut the cost of getting to space by 90%. 90%. By 2021, he was the richest person on Earth. By 2024, his net worth crossed $400 billion. Numbers so large they stop meaning anything. But the number that matters most isn't 400 billion. It's 12. The age he was when he was beaten unconscious. The age he first decided the world as it existed wasn't good enough. That he was going to bend it into something better, whether it wanted him to or not. Because here's what nobody tells you about Elon Musk. He isn't successful because he's a genius. There are thousands of geniuses. He's successful because he has an almost inhuman tolerance for pain. He can absorb more failure, more humiliation, more loss than almost any human being alive, and come back swinging harder every single time. He lost companies. He lost relationships. He lost his health. He nearly lost everything multiple times, and every single time he got back up and went harder. The bullied kid from Pretoria, who nobody believed in, built the world's most valuable car company, the world's most advanced rocket company, and put himself on a path to make humanity a multi-planetary species, not because the world gave him a chance, but because he refused to wait for one. And maybe that's the thing about people who change the world. They don't start with more talent. They don't start with more money. They start with more pain, and they decide to use it. The kid who got thrown down the stairs is now building staircases to the stars. And just 3 days ago, on June 12, 2026, SpaceX went public on the NASDAQ, ticker SPCX. It raised $75 billion in a single day, the largest IPO in the history of the stock market. The kid who read encyclopedias in Pretoria just made Wall Street history. Again. And he is just getting started.